Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thanks for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. Let's take a quick look at Loopring, and we'll just go ahead and jump right in, honestly, because Bitcoin's kind of just misbehaving right around 64,000, kind of stuck between 64 and 65. So instead of looking at Bitcoin, we'll just go ahead and jump into Loopring. And if you're new to the channel, not a financial advisor, this is for educational purposes only. And I always recommend you do your own research, but I love teaching, I love trading, and I've kind of combined the two in a trading community. So check that out in your own time, of course. Really cool group of folks. We also have signals that I send for every single trade that I take too. So you can kind of get the feel for what I typically do myself as a trader. So again, check that out. Now looking at the one-day chart, obviously the moving averages are far behind. We don't need to worry about that. Let's take a quick look at the RSI. Look at that, bounced up 70 effectively. So we're in good shape there too. It's still working as a support level. Taking a look at the 4-hour chart, let's go ahead and see what's going on here. And if we look at the 4 hours here, we got this. Yep, it just broke it's kind of interesting because it broke below the wedge pattern, but then broke back above. So it's interesting. We did lose the support level here for a moment at about 280, and then it ramped right back up to get resisted out at about 328. So you can kind of see that 328 is pretty strong resistance right now. So you never truly want to buy into a resistance level, but obviously if you look back here, had you done that, it would have been a good call, right? Of course, hindsight's 20/20. We can't estimate that at all times, but it's really interesting, the movement for LRC here recently. It did look like it wanted to break to the downside, but thankfully it stayed and held above. So all is well there. Look at the 4-hour, so your 50-day simple moving average, that's working its way up as well. So that could be a support level eventually. But right now, honestly, not much else to really note on the 4-hour chart. I think we're going to be able to get the most here from our 1 hour. So let's see where we're at with the cloud. We just broke back above the cloud. This is a very, very good sign. So oftentimes taking entry above the cloud is a good consideration, just based on the simple fact that that is a pretty strong support and resistance level, and that could basically tell us that the momentum is shifting back to bullish, right? It's kind of generally what the cloud is telling you. So all in all, that's a very good sign. Just bear in mind there is a resistance level there. So if you're going to take entry, you're taking entry into a resistance level, and that can be sometimes problematic. So we're just kind of right between these two support and resistance zones. So I would personally wait a little bit, but honestly, it does feel like it's going to start taking off soon. So I would say that's not a terrible consideration. If you're kind of just a long-term holder, your dollar cost averaging, now would not be a bad time to take entry. But if you're just looking for a quick little day trade or scalp trade, you might want to wait for the price to break above this resistance level and establish yourself as a support first. That's just usually what I like to look at personally. Now taking a look here at TD sequential, let's see where we're at. We just hit a 9, so bear that in mind. It couldn't break the resistance level because it had to effectively consolidate. So that's all well and good. Basically just means consolidating at resistance, which oftentimes does lead to a breakout to the upside. So I would say more often than not, when you are consolidating at a resistance level here, based on the price being so low for so long, or having had retraced for so long, then there's a decent chance it could break to the upside. Now, is it going to shoot to $5, $6 tomorrow? No, probably not, but it could very well break and then push itself up to the next major resistance level. That is a common theme with these kind of coins right now, because they all work very well within the support and resistance zones. I mean, you can kind of see the channels that it creates. It comes up here, gets rejected, comes down, and then works itself into a little wedge. Then it descends, and now it comes right back up. Pretty standard patterns for these type of coins. Let's go ahead and look at the best case scenario here. Just kind of go ahead and leave you with that again. I don't foresee this happening today, but if we look at just say the big picture, right? So this amount of movement, for LRC, it took it, from the 7th to the 10th. So in 3 trading days, LRC increased about 236%. So in order for us to get that same type of movement, right? In other words, a breakout to the upside, essentially. Once we break this resistance level at about 385, then it will likely shoot up to that point, right? It may not take 3 days, it might take a week, it might take 2. It could even literally take 1 day. That's just how this coin works. So it's hard to anticipate specifically what that will do. But based on its history here, the fact that it took 3 days to get up there, and now we are about 4 days later, and it's starting to ramp back up, then I would say there's a decent chance within the next week or 2, by month end, we should see a price range about 670, maybe even 750 as a best case scenario. But keep in mind, we have to break this key level resistance at 385 first. If we don't, then we're going to be in a position where it's going to just kind of keep going sideways. And it's going to have 2 scenarios here, right? It's going to come up and it'll probably play out in the next major channel, right? It'll kind of work itself into that little channel. Because oftentimes, breaking an all-time high can be, it takes a little while. It takes a good couple of pushes to get there. So what I'm guessing is the price will come up here. It'll probably consolidate at resistance, maybe even bounce down, and try to resist out again a second time. And then eventually just break out. And once it breaks out, it almost always, it's very, very common for the coin to come back down and bounce off the previous resistance, which is essentially establish itself as a new support level, and then work its way up. So I wouldn't, don't expect that, the price just breaking above the all-time high, it's going to shoot to the moon from there. It has to kind of test its support level, that the resistance level it just broke, which is essentially the new support. Also keep in mind too, the one-day chart is the most important chart here for this. So if we cannot close the one-day candlestick above $3.85, then it's effectively not valid, right? And the reason why I say that is because you look back here, November 10th, right? The price came all the way up to about 385. And of course, it ended up closing at 303. So obviously a big difference there, and I know I get that. That was the that was the what is it, Elgon? I always forget the name, but the China candle essentially, for lack of better terms, where the the real estate happened overseas, that really sent things in a tizzy, right? Because Bitcoin dropped 10% in about 3 hours. Of course, it's going to affect it, but the bottom line here is that LRC didn't close above that that level, right? Therefore, it's considered to be a resistance, right? That's the same thing here as well. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the one-day chart, this is also important to note. The level in which it's testing right now at about 328 is still a resistance level, okay, for the one-day candlestick close. So all-time highs are one thing, but the one-day candlestick close is another. So the highest point you can find on the one-day candlestick that's closed, that's effectively the major resistance level. And you can see here, almost this is the third day in a row it's trying to break through. No, fourth day in a row it's trying to break through. So just relevant stuff you need to understand going into this. So again, simply put, I would say my prediction is pretty straightforward. A couple of weeks, we could very well see $6 to $7. The key takeaway here is that we need to get the one-day candlestick to close above 328. That's the most important thing. Then obviously the one-day candlestick, moving forward, to close above 388, which is the roughly the previous all-time high. Okay, so those two things are super relevant, super important. If that doesn't happen, we should probably expect the price to continue to go sideways somewhere in the range of $2 to $3, somewhere in that range. Okay, so all in all, just proceed with caution, be careful, don't take entry until you have that confirmation, and just make sure that you know specifically what you're getting out of it, right? If your long-term goals are LRC to the moon, all good. Just continue to dollar cost average. But again, shorter term, quick day trade, wait for that resistance level to break first, have it consolidate and close above as if it's a support, but preferably close the one-day candlestick, which is roughly about, I would say about, 7-8 hours from now. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, it depends on when you watch this video, but thank you regardless for watching. Appreciate your time here. Be sure to check out my Patreon community, as well as the fact that I do have a lot of other resources that I help provide to my current patrons. So check that out. Thank you again to my patrons for requesting that I cover this. I do this for you, and I greatly and deeply appreciate you. We'll look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.